Alright, so we're gonna start with prototype 3. This is the first one. So I got everything to work basically except for the actual fences moving left. For some reason I keep having trouble with the code itself. But in this one I learned how to make the entire scene itself move past the character to imitate the actual character moving. And I also was able to add the particle effects to the feet and the running animation, as well as the jumping animation and sound effects. This was something that you can do right over in the actual player itself. You can add the animations in the animator bar, and then you can actually open this up and go in there, and you can add specific animations for jumping and running and also death. Unfortunately, it won't make contact with the barrier, so I can't get my death animation, even though it does work. And then you can also change the physics of the character. That's how we were able to achieve the jump. So you can see there I have the jump force at 600, and basically it's recommended to do about 10 times the mass, just to get a good distance on the jump, but then you can customize it as much as you want. And then the actual particle effects and everything, you actually add to the character itself as well. And then if you go in here to the scripts, each one of these controls a different part of the actual whole. So there's the move left script, which is applied to the fences, even though it doesn't work, and the background itself. And then as you can see, the background repeats. So then there's the repeat background script. And then there is the spawn script, the spawn manager. The spawn manager, it works. However, it's for some reason it's conflicting with the move left script, and they're not like working together properly. And then the player controller script, which is probably the most important as far as the actual functions of all the particle effects, and when they happen, as well as the jump trigger for getting the key space. As you can see, I have all of the different variables listed that you would need. So each particle is listed and all the audio clips as well. And then you kind of put it all in, as well as the death animation and the debug log as well. That way you get the game over and everything stops when you hit the object and the game's over. And this is the spawn manager. This is basically all it is a respawn tool. It basically spawns the fence object, the barrier, every so often. So that's what the delay is for the initial spawn. So there's a delay before it spawns. So it's not spawning immediately when the game starts. And then there's the repeat rate, which is so there's a certain amount of time it'll wait before it repeats. And then you have the spawn position, so that is using the vector 3, the x, y, and z coordinates, putting it at the spawn position of 50 in the x, so it moves it to the right a little bit in front of the player. And then that is that. And then if it'll stop spawning them if the game is over as well. And then the move left script. So this one controls the background, and then like I said, the barriers, but it's having trouble with the barriers for some reason. This one is basically just telling it to move left. that's basically it. So you have the float speed value, which is the speed at which it's moving left. And then you have the float left bound, so that's like how far it's gonna go. And then the actual find object to get the actual player and call the player controller script. So that way you can actually, from the player controller script, get certain items, such as the game over function, well, the game over variable, or Boolean expression, if you will. So then we can pull that over from that, this over here, this, this script, and we can pull it over to this one, and then use it down here to say, if the game is over, then you don't want the background to still be moving, so then you stop the background. So then I think that is all for prototype 3. Well, here's the repeat background as well. So just simple, it repeats the width of the background over and over again, so it cuts it in half perfectly, and then you can kind of set it at a certain speed. Well, actually, you don't even have to set it. It does it itself when it cuts it in half, so it does it perfectly, as far as like for the frame rate that we're running it at right now. And then we'll close out of this real quick. And then, okay. I'm gonna open challenge 3 real quick. I guess we'll open both of them. Might as well. So we'll do challenge 3 first. I wasn't able to completely finish challenge 3 here, but we will see. So up at the top here, I got most of the things working. Oh, if I can actually use my space key. So I have it set up to where you click the space key, because I used get key down instead of the hold. But I accidentally tweaked the jump physics a little bit. So right now, if you kind of tell, it's floating way up too high still. So instead of it just dropping down, I kind of tweaked it a little bit too far. But I did get most of the things working here. If we go into the script, and it's functional now, the background moves and everything. It's just, so let me open these real quick. All right. So if we go in here, this is just another move left program, pretty much the same as the other one. I fixed it to be pretty similar here, and then if the game is not over, move to the left. I had to fix this Boolean statement here. And then we go into the spawn manager. This one, I don't have it working right because I couldn't figure out how to get the actual game objects for the money and the bomb and everything to spawn in. Um, and then we have the spawn objects. This is to like set the random location for the objects to spawn. And then the repeat background. So this one, it was set up to be size.y, which was like splitting the background vertically and kind of giving that glitch effect. So then what I had to do is I just fixed it by changing the value to x, size.x and over 2 instead of size.y over 2. And that fixed most of the issues with the background itself. This move left does work for the background as well, you can see. And then here the player controller. So we have the float force, the gravity modifier, as well as the start function with the rigid body and the audio source, as well as the gravity modifier. That way everything as far as physics and as well as the audio for jumping and everything is being called. And then here we have, so when space is pressed, and the player is low enough, you float up. Right now, it is working, so it adds the force vector 3 of up, and then it does that times the float force up there. And then we have the on collisions, so theoretically, it's supposed to kind of, when you hit a bomb and they respawn and you end up hitting one or you hit the ground, which I did get it to work when you hit the ground, it does say game over in the console. So what it's supposed to do as well with the bomb is say game over, and I believe it should. I just haven't gotten it to work because I can't get the bombs to spawn properly. And then with the money tag as well, I have it as a trigger, but unfortunately it's not triggering the actual money sound nor the particle effects, but I believe that's just because I haven't, I think there's something extra I have to do there. So that is pretty much it for challenge 3. And then let's move on to prototype 4. So this is prototype 4. I can play it for you real quick. So in this one, I learned how to do 3D, like the 3D sphere, as well as like putting it on this plane and having it roll around this focal point with the camera using the keys. I fell off there. But then using the 2 keys to move around the camera, and then having forward be toward the actual center point of the camera. And if I can get this power up here, we'll just have to retry a couple times. Let's see if I can. Oh no, that's no good. Give me one moment here. Okay, got the power up. So now if he touches me here, and I don't roll myself off the edge, with the power up, I'll actually be able to hit him and knock him off here and then get it to spawn some more. So let's see, there we go. And then as you see, it spawns a random amount more, and you can knock him off and it spawns another power up. And then the power up did run out, so I don't have the ring around me anymore. I gotta get this other one. Oh man, very tough on the controls here. Gotta be very gentle with her. Oh, I won on accident. It's okay. We're all right. Just gotta take him around town. Anyway, you get the gist of it. And as you can see, I have it like spawning in the wave format and everything, and then we can kind of go into that here in the assets, in scripts. So then let me close these real quick. Save. And we'll get out of that. Close this real quick. Open this one. So here are these. So this one was actually really fun. This is probably the most fun one we've done so far. Just being able to like control the ball and having the physics of it bouncing around it. I don't know, it's something like oddly satisfying about it. But as you can see, we kind of cleaned everything up as far as like the randomized function and the spawn wave and everything like that. It's all separate call functions that we're calling from down at the bottom where we actually have them declared. But up here we have the spawn range, so that way for the random, and then the enemy count and the wave number and all that good stuff. And then, so then here we're finding the object and then we're generating the spawn position. So all of this is actually calling the function for, if there's no enemies, then we're gonna spawn some more. And then it's calling that like wave number function. So the wave number goes up every time. And then we have the generate spawn position. So this is actually the generation of those random spawn positions. And then here is the actual function for spawning the enemies. So it's not going to spawn any enemies if, you know, if I is 0, then, you know, I is less than enemy spawn, then we're going to spawn more enemies. So then you have the instantiate statement, so we're not putting it up here, and so we're kind of cleaning it up a little bit and just being able to type that function call in there. And then here's a really fun one as well, just the rotate camera. Super simple, but also really fun. Just the rotation speed, so that's the speed at which when you hit W and, well, not W, sorry, A and D, how fast it's actually going to turn around that axis. And then we have the float horizontal input, so that's the input from the keys. We're talking A and D here. And then we have the transform rotate, so what that's going to do is it's going to transform the actual like camera, and it's going to take that camera rotation, and I did negative horizontal input because that way when you do left it actually goes left, and when you do right it actually goes right. I got a little confused at first when it was the other way around, so I preferred it that way. And then we have the player controller, so then, you know, the speed of the ball itself is in here, as well as all of the physics for the ball, like the rigid body, and the actual focal point for the ball is in here as well. So tying that that movement when you hit forward toward the camera, so toward the center, wherever that camera is pointing at the time, that focal point will be the place that you're going to move to. As well as the power-up and everything like that. So on trigger, when you collide with the power-up, then the power-up will become true, and then it causes the call for the function that does the power-up countdown as well as the power-up itself. So then go down here, and you have the power-up countdown as well as the power-up effect. So it has collided with, and then it'll put the object you collided within with power up set to, and then it'll tell you the outcome of has power up, so if it was on or off. And then in enemy here, we have all of the code for the enemies. It's not a whole lot. Mostly all they're coded to do is really just follow after you. So they come toward you, and that is just the vector 3 look direction, and then player transform position. So then at first, if you don't normalize the actual vector itself, the vector will just like stupendously increase on the way as far like further you get away. So then that normalized there at the end helps get the actual vector itself to be normalized. It'll stay the same the whole time, so the speed itself stays the same the whole time. And then, oh, if the object falls off the map, it also destroys them. So that's how the spawn manager knows If there aren't any enemies left, so then, enemies is at 0, this is how it knows enemies is at 0. So those actually get despawned. And then that, I believe, is all for prototype 4. And then just give me a second to open prototype 5. Okay, so on prototype 5, I haven't gotten that far yet. All I have right now is the physics of the objects themselves. So I can drag them over in the queue here, and then it'll actually float up and spin around. So I've done that, and I can show the script here. So I just have this target script that I've worked on. See if I can get it to load. But the target script has been pretty cool. You can actually, so we're using that same kind of range that we were using for the randomized location, but now we're using the random function to actually randomize the forces that we're applying upon the object. So every time you see the object spinning, and even the way the object gets thrown up, as well as the spawn position of the object, are all randomized. And then that is done through just this actual little function right here. So at first, without declaring the private float of the min speed, max torque, and also the range of x and the spawn position of y, you have to hard code in each number. When you do that, you don't allow the actual it's harder to see. Basically, it's a lot to read. If you were able to see the code before, it was a lot less simple to tell that we were just calling functions here. Before, we were calling the random range and the random range function for the random forces and torque, as well as the spawn position. We had to declare it 3 different times, and then you had to go through and declare each and every random range and position and the parameters for it, for x and y, as well as for y for the spawn position. So then once you did that, it kind of takes out all of the gunk, and you're able to see. So then we come out of here, and I also didn't mention it before in prototype 4, but I did learn how to texture objects, as you can see with the background here, as well as the balls on prototype 4. Let's see if I can see here. I need to back up if I can. Oh, we're still in game mode, that is why. Okay, so then as you can see here, you could take one of these down here and the course library, and you could go into textures, and then you can even take and drag, and I can make this middle one a different thing. So there you go.